Hey everybody, Sean from Movie Assault here, and it's time for the final episode of the Halloween 15. This is it, episode 15 of the Halloween 15, and I am reviewing Sinister from 2012, starring Ethan Hawke, Juliette Rylance, and who else is in this? Fred Dalton Thompson, James Ransone, Claire Foley, Michael Hall D'Addario. This was directed by Scott Derrickson and was written by Derrickson and C. Robert Cargill. And I watched The Black Phone earlier this year, and they were responsible in exactly the same roles. Derrickson as director and co-writer, and Cargill as co-writer. That was an excellent film. I really enjoyed it. It was probably one of my most pleasant surprises of the year. I have to say I enjoyed Sinister equally as much, if not just a little bit more. There was a study done, I think it was called the Science of Scare study. I read about it in September of last year, 2021, and it said that Sinister was the scariest movie ever made based on viewers' heart rates. They put heart monitors on people watching scary movies and measured the differential of their resting heartbeat to how fast their heart would beat during the scary scenes in movies. And Sinister won overall, I guess, the most accelerated heart rate over everything else. And it did not have the highest jump scare. The highest jump scare actually belonged to the highest single scariest jump scare, that is, belonged to Insidious. But this has one that's pretty damn close. Sinister tells the story of Ellison Oswald, and he is a true crime writer. He's fallen on a little bit of hard times because it's been a while since his most successful book, which came out about 10 years ago, and he's really trying to make his next book a big hit because he really needs the money. His family needs the money. They've got 2 mortgages. And what he does is he has 2 mortgages because he moves his family out of their old house into a new house, doesn't tell his wife and kids that this new house is where the murder that he's writing about took place. And apparently he gets a little too into his projects, and his wife is worried that he's going to become unhinged again, and makes him promise that he's not going to do that again. Well, as is usual in most of these movies, of course, it wouldn't be much interesting happen if he didn't become a little bit unhinged. But this time it's not because he's obsessed with his work. It's because he's actually being sort of scared to death by what he finds in the attic, which is an old projector with some Super 8 reels. And he watches what's on these films, and it actually ends up being films of murders, one of which took place in the house that he is currently living in. And by watching these films, he unleashes something sinister. I'll leave it at that. I don't want to go too far into it. I definitely don't want to spoil anything. And I went into this not knowing anything. I avoided trailers. I avoided reviews. So I really went into this not knowing anything about it. And I have to say, this is, and it may not be the scariest movie ever made. That's always going to be up for debate, but I found this incredibly scary. And it's old school scary. And one of the things that I liked about it is that director Scott Derrickson, and his writer and his cinematographer, who is Christopher Noor, director of photography, and the soundtrack by Christopher Young, they create an atmosphere in this movie that is undeniably creepy and scary. And then it layers jump scares over top of that. If a movie depends solely on jump scares, I think that's just cheap and annoying, and I've said that for a long time. I'm a big fan of horror films, but ones that are not truly scary and are just cheap, I don't like those movies. This has the atmosphere, it gets under your skin, and then it has jump scares, and that is a scary movie. This qualifies. And I can't give it a better compliment than telling you this little story that happened literally just about an hour ago, because I just finished watching this about an hour ago. Um, it was a Saturday afternoon, broad daylight, got finished watching this, started working on my review of the film, and my dog barked at something just totally unexpectedly. And I literally almost jumped out of my skin because this movie was still in my bones. It was still bothering me. So I can't give it a higher compliment than that. The only problem I had with Sinister is the conclusion, the wrap up. Again, I won't spoil anything, but the final reel, um, it, it just didn't stick with me. It didn't land. It didn't stick the landing, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And there's not specifically anything wrong with it. It's just that it emotionally didn't resonate as well as the beginning and the setup and the rest of the story. It I don't want to say it felt cheap, but it felt uh, disingenuous based on what the film had been showing up to that point. Again, it's hard to say specifics without giving anything away. Um, but I will just leave it at that. So I'm giving Sinister an 8 out of 10. Highly recommend it. It's really, really good. It is scary. Is it the scariest movie of all time? I don't know. It's definitely got to be up there. Um, it definitely, I'm definitely going to be thinking about this movie when I put my head down on my pillow tonight to go to sleep. So that is probably the best thing I can say about it. So ending on a high note, Sinister, well worth your time. If you're looking for something to watch on Halloween night, definitely watch this. And it does not depend on gore. And, you know, with my recent review of Terrifier 2, I like gore just as much as any other horror fan. But again, if there's not atmosphere and there's not, you know, some care in the creation of that, the gore is, again, a cheap way to scare people. But this doesn't need it. It's got enough just pure atmosphere to get under your skin. And this is not one of those movies like Poltergeist that some people will say is scary and other people think that it was boring. This isn't boring at all. So definitely check out Sinister. So there you go. That's my review of Sinister. That is it for the Halloween 15 for 2022. I hope you enjoyed watching these, or some of these, or all of these reviews I've been doing. I've had fun making them. This is my favorite time of year to put together the Halloween 15, watch all these movies, and try to get them all done and reviewed by Halloween time. So I hope you had as much fun watching as I did making these. So thanks again for watching. And as always, feel free to comment below and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thanks again, everybody. Take it easy.